And joining me this Sunday morning is Dominic LeBlanc, Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs. Nice to see you, Minister.
Good morning, Rosemary.
So if I'm not mistaken, this week is our biggest delivery week so far, with 643,000 doses arriving this week. How confident are you that the provinces are ready to start receiving big numbers in the coming weeks?
We're actually very confident, Rosemary. There has been an ongoing, highly visible series of rehearsals, of tabletop exercises. General Fortin, with his counterparts in every province, has really been preparing for this for many weeks, because we knew that certainly April, May, June, there'd be a huge ramp up, but we're going to see a significant ramp up in these last weeks of February and into March as well. So we're very confident, and provinces certainly tell us they're anxious and ready to receive more vaccines, as I know all Canadians are. So we're quite confident it'll be very effective.
Is there anything that Ottawa can do practically in terms of preparing them or making sure that they are ready to onboard that amount of doses?
Of course, and those are the things that we've been working collaboratively with them on now for many months. The Canadian military, as you know, will be able to assist some provinces in the more remote northern communities, for example, in Newfoundland and Labrador, or obviously in the territories. There's military planning and military preparation that can assist the provinces. But we're really confident with their public health authorities, their hospitals. They're looking obviously at a series of measures as we get into different vaccines, we hope, that are approved in the coming weeks as well, including family doctors, pharmacists, sort of broadening the suite of healthcare professionals who could administer the increasing number of vaccines. So everything that General Fortin, the Public Health Agency, tell us is that the provinces are ready. But as always, if there are gaps or if there are needs for redundancies, sort of for backup plans, the Government of Canada, as we have from the beginning, will be there to help them.
Obviously, everyone's concern right now is the race between the vaccines and the variants. We saw in this province in Ontario, the Premier decided to keep the lockdown on a couple of areas of the province. But where I am in Ontario, I mean, there's people out eating dinner in restaurants and doing things that are pretty, regular that I haven't done in about a year's time. I wonder how concerned you are about some of these restrictions being lifted too quickly in some parts of the country.
And that was, Rosemary, the subject of conversation we had with the premiers. The Prime Minister had his First Minister's meeting on Thursday evening last week. Dr. Tam participated in some of it to talk about some new modeling precisely around, as you said, the variants. We were happy to see provinces like Ontario, for example, follow the public health advice to prolong in some parts of the province the more restrictive measures. It's difficult. We understand that citizens, that people are understandably tired, as you said. The idea to be able to go out to a restaurant or see sort of life on a main street or a busy street in a city like Ottawa, where you are, these are all things that people are very anxious to resume. We understand that, but the variants are a concern, and obviously, as more of the population gets vaccinated, it provides greater protection. So we'll support the provinces as they make these tough decisions. But we think at the end of the day, people have to just continue to follow these public health measures for a number of months, and hopefully we'll be in a better position as we get into the summer.
The hotel quarantining starts tomorrow. I'm not sure how many people will be returning tomorrow, but officially it starts tomorrow. What do you say to people, and some young people in particular that I've spoken to, who say they just don't have the money, that they were overseas studying and now their visa's up and they have to come back and they don't have $2,000 to stay in a hotel for 3 days?
So I was pleased to see, I think it was on the CBC website, reports that some hotels that are designated as able to receive these quarantine passengers or travelers while they're waiting for their negative COVID test. Some of the nightly stays are less expensive than was originally thought. That's great. The idea is that the hotels can determine the cost themselves with the individual travelers. But we've said from the beginning that all non-essential travel should very, very much be reduced or discouraged. Some people have decided to, for reasons, you used the example of studying abroad. That's obviously a more compelling reason than going to a resort in the Dominican Republic. But these people have an obligation to follow the public health advice that can change without notice. That's true across the country. The American government has recently increased a number of measures at their international borders as well. So countries around the world, with the arrival of the variants, are looking at increased measures and additional layers of protection. And we continue to review on an ongoing basis, Rosemary, all of these measures, and we'll continue to adjust as necessary.
But I guess my question is, for these cases where it is more compelling, where, you know, someone just got stuck in a situation where they were trapped in a country doing their studies and are now trying to return home, is there a possibility that the federal government could pick up that cost for them?
For the moment, no. That is a cost that shall properly be borne by the returning traveler. As we've said, the Government of Canada has paid enormous support to Canadians through the pandemic, and will continue to do so as long as is necessary. But people who are returning to Canada have an obligation to follow the public health rules that are in place. And we think having to produce a negative test 72 hours before your arrival in Canada, right, but then undergoing an additional molecular test when you arrive in Canada and remaining in a designated quarantine site until you get the negative result, at which point you can return to presumably your residence to continue your 14-day quarantine there. All of these are essential to protect Canadians, Rosemary, and we understand they're tough and it might represent a hardship for some people, but it's necessary in our judgment to continue to protect Canadians during a pandemic.
Okay, a couple other questions on two other topics, if you don't mind. We got news this weekend that there will be a virtual bilateral meeting between the President and the Prime Minister. How significant is it that that is the first bilateral for Canada, that this is an indication that the relationship is, you know, maybe back on track compared to where it was with the previous administration?
We were very pleased, obviously, that President Biden continued what had sort of been a tradition, I understand, for a number of presidents, that their first formal, obviously we were hoping for a visit. Yes. That would obviously be a nicer occasion, but for public health reasons, a virtual bilateral is probably the way to go. We're very pleased that the Biden administration has decided to resume that tradition. The Prime Minister has had a number of very constructive and positive conversations with President Biden, Vice President Harris, Climate Representative, Secretary of State John Kerry, former Secretary of State Kerry. So we're very encouraged by the ongoing desire to collaborate with Canada, obviously on issues as important as COVID, as vaccinations, as public health. The two governments have committed to working together, for example, on the border, on increasing measures at the border. So we're very enthusiastic about what is developing, we think, to be a very constructive relationship for Canada. Obviously, the Prime Minister will want to talk about climate change, our concerns around the potential impact of a Buy America policy on Canadian businesses. But we're very confident that all these matters can be resolved collegially.
Okay, last question, and just quickly, when we last spoke a month ago, it was about the Governor General and the Chief Justice obviously now filling into that role, and you were hoping that you would be somewhere down the road here in terms of the process. Have you agreed on a process to choosing the next Governor General? How far away are we from any of that right now?
So we're finalizing what we hope will be the elements of a process and should have more to say this coming week. Okay. There's no doubt that we recognize leaving the Chief Justice as the administrator constitutionally is not something that should go on for months and months. So I expect that this coming week we'll have something to say about the kind of process that we'll use on an expedited basis, recognizing that we need to move reasonably quickly to select a successor to Madame Payette. Will
it be some sort of consultation that wasn't there with the previous Governor General? Is that what we should expect, that it be a little broader in terms of consulting people? Yeah. Again, we're going to be announcing the details of that this coming week. We recognize it's important to choose an outstanding Canadian to succeed Madame Payette and to be Governor General, and the Prime Minister will have more to say on that in the coming days. Okay. Minister, thank you for your time on this Sunday. Appreciate it. Thank you, Rosemary. Have a great day.